Hey everybody, Justin White here, and you are about to listen to episode 6 of Power Forward. Our guest is Melinda Wilner, Chief Operating Officer and Chief Risk Officer. Melinda has accomplished a lot in her career, but she is so humble, so kind, and so focused on what she can do for others. You'll find out why that is one of the most rewarding parts of her job. Confidence is a big thing for anyone, especially for those in leadership. Melinda explains the power of believing in yourself and how it can help you take on challenges outside your comfort zone. We also talk about how Melinda's professional success has helped her as a parent and what her advice is for women who aspire to be leaders and moms. It's all coming up right now on Power Forward. The primary purpose of this podcast series is to inform, entertain, and educate. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast series do not constitute legal or other professional advice, opinions, or endorsements of any kind.
This is Power Forward.
All right, welcome back to Power Forward. Justin White alongside Mateen Cleaves. And Mateen, I want to start off today by asking you a question. In your life, when someone has asked you to take on more responsibility, to change things up, whether it's a family member, a coach, or a leader / boss, what's been your natural reaction to situations like that?
My early days was, why me? That was the first reaction. But after that, it was like, let's go. Let's make it happen and get the job done.
Yeah, and it takes some time to get to that point, right?
Oh, yeah. It don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like I grew into that person, and that was years down the line.
Well, to me, it really shows you what you're capable of, when you're asked to take on more and do more. And today's guest knows a little something about that.
Oh, yeah.
We are very pleased to welcome to the podcast our Chief Operating Officer and Chief Risk Officer. Yes, she has both those titles. Melinda Wilner is here. Melinda, welcome to Power Forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
When we were talking about having you on the show, I was doing some research because, we like to do that. We like to be prepared. And I came across an interesting stat or number. You have actually been in the mortgage industry now for 20 years.
Yes, you have just aged me, Justin.
Well,
Thank
I'm
you.
trying not to do that. No, but that's a big
I was
milestone.
10 for the
Yes.
listeners. 10 years old.
Our fact checkers can also confirm that. The earliest start ever in the mortgage industry. But that's a big milestone. When you reflect back on 2 decades in the same industry, what comes to mind for you?
It's even worse when you put it in terms of 2 decades. It's even longer than 20 years sounding. I reflect on it a lot. I'm fortunate to be a part of the industry for this long. I'm fortunate to, what's fun for me right now is like everything I did, and I've done a lot of different roles in mortgages. Like I feel like everything that I did prior to the job that I do today was preparing me for today. So I'm thankful for my background where I got to do a lot of things. I got to originate. I got to be a processor. I got to wear the hat that our brokers do, and I got to be the human resources person, the marketing person, and it's really been an amazing industry. Very difficult. Like some days I'm like, gosh, can't we just sell ice cream cones or something a little bit more simplistic? But it has been amazing. I think one of my favorite parts about it is just the change. Like it is always different, and I actually love the challenge of it. Like it is challenging. There are so many pieces to it. It's pretty fantastic. So I'm grateful for 20 years. It's one of those, I think, love-hate things that just keeps sucking you back in. Like you have some tough times, but it keeps you where you are because you actually love it at the end of the day.
And you mentioned challenges. So a lot of people run from challenges. But you said you love it.
I do.
Where did that come from, Melinda?
You know what? I'm not sure where the love for challenge came from. I've always been super inquisitive. I'm driven in a different way, kind of a little bit more quietly competitive than some, but just a lifetime learner. I always want to know more and more and more and do more and more so that I could be better at what I do. But the challenge is like even as a kid, like I was the nerdy nerdy kid. Like I loved crossword puzzles. I loved logic problems. I loved solving things. Like I loved anything that was a challenge, and still love it today.
Well, that would make sense because you were underwriting loans when you were 10 years old,
Yes,
right?
yes. I
the
started
start.
very early. I was like a underwriting prodigy at 10 years old.
Well,
Just kidding. I wasn't really starting at 10 years old.
The Doogie Howser of the mortgage industry. But you also mentioned liking change, and we know that happens all the time in this industry. How do you have to be wired as a person in your career to really be able to embrace change, even if it's happening on a week-to-week basis, or in some cases maybe day-to-day?
Yeah, I think a lot of times change is forced upon us, and I think it makes a big difference in our lives how we do that. Whether it's at work, and I'm not even separate mortgages for a second, change in daily life and how people look at that. Like it's a cliche term, I'm sure. Hey, if you're not changing, you're not growing, and I have always believed that from day one. So I love when at home life changes. I don't look for like, hey, let's do the same thing every day. I am not, probably to my detriment, I'm not that great of a planner. Like my days are not scheduled at all. Like it's like, oh, whatever happens that day happens. So, and then in the mortgage industry, like again, kind of back to the lifetime learning thing, like change is, you're going to learn more. So when you're forced with change, sometimes you can look at it one of two ways. You can either be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst, and sit and complain about it, or you just dive in and say, okay, I got to change. There's no use focusing on the parts that I can't control. I just got to move forward and make it the best that I can with what I have to work with.
And you just talked about change, but I want to ask you a question about pace. Yeah. Is because what makes me think about it is when I first started playing basketball or watching basketball, it was such a slow pace. And it gradually got faster and faster and faster. And was that kind of the same case with the mortgage industry as well?
You must have a hard time watching golf and baseball then if you thought basketball is slow.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I feel like the pace was always pretty fast from day one, but it depends on how much you're taken on to do. Always loved the fast pace. I walk fast. I talk fast. It's a rapidly changing industry, so I feel like it was never really slow paced. And in my world, it's like, hey, there's no 8 hours worth of work. There's always more that can be done. There's always something that you can do. So your pace has to be high because there's never that moment like, okay, like we did everything. Like come back tomorrow and start out over again. There's always more that can be done. So you kind of control your own pace with, oh my gosh, I have this giant mountain of things to tackle. I better move really quick.
Well, we know for you that mountain is basically like Mount Everest because as Mateen and I were talking about off the top of the show, you have been asked to do more at several different points in your career here. You led underwriting, you go to be the chief operating officer, you also then oversee IT, and now most recently also assuming the role as chief risk officer. When you think through all of those points, that progression, taking more onto your plate when your plate's probably already pretty full, how did you kind of navigate through those periods?
Ooh, that's a good question. I love making an impact. I love helping people. IT used to report to Matt directly. Risk did as well. As he's taking on more things, like watching him really, grow the industry. Like I'm happy to be able to take on more of the things that he did to free up his time to do different things, like grow this wonderful channel and this fantastic company that we're in. And it's things that I've been interested in. And honestly, like I love the blend of it all. So in the 20 years of mortgages, I would say for the first 17, it was there's a lot of changes in there, but about the same process, very manual. I would call it a kind of a dinosaur industry, just the way that things were done. And really, the last 3 have been the most like fascinating, and not just because separate from UWM, but actually the mortgage process itself and the blending of technology now to make the borrower experience better, and then the blending of technology like operationally in here and all the different things that we're doing with it. Like it's been pretty amazing. It's my favorite part of getting to really blend, and my hands-on IT a lot with the technology, hands in operations for a long time, and then on the same token, like, hey, how do you do it with good control and making sure that we're making prudent decisions, which is where the risk thing comes in. So it's actually a fantastic like blend of like you get to have a whole great world to focus on.
You said and you've led so many different teams. I'm gonna ask a hard question here.
Ooh.
Which team did you like the best? No, I'm joking. Don't answer
I
that.
love them all.
Don't exactly.
They're all my favorites, Mateen.
There you go. That was a perfect the way you answered that. But you had so many different teams. Is there a different approach that you have to take with any specific teams?
Yeah, they're very different from each other. They really are. And I can't say that I truly can't say that I have a favorite. I have favorite things I love about each team, but there's one thing's rough about one team but great about another team, and vice versa. So it's really a lot of fun. Like I love kind of the operational side because I love a good process, and underwriting I love just how it's a crazy job. It's kind of like almost being an attorney. You got these whole set of guidelines that are swirling around in your head, and it takes judgment calls and thought, and it's fantastic. And then like our IT team, gosh, what a great bunch of folks there. They care so much. The way that their heads work is pretty amazing, and it's each one has a little bit of difference from one another. Obviously, we're all in the same culture, but each one has a little bit different of dynamics and kind of personalities in there. So it's but they're all my favorite. I love them all.
Like your kids, right? You can't pick a favorite.
Cannot pick a favorite.
Melinda, it's fascinating for us as we talk to leaders here and people about leadership, just to kind of get a sense of their approach and the way they like to lead. Lots of common themes, but also some differences as well. When you think about your leadership style, what are the things that are most important to you?
I think one of the most important things is two most important things. I think directness, but also care and thoughtfulness. So you learn early on that conversations are really tough to have, right? And you realize after you've had some tough conversations over your time, like, oh my gosh, like things got so much better after I had that conversation, and you walk away with, gosh, it feels good, right? So I'll be honest, like I hate exercising, hate it, as I sit with this star athlete next to me here. Sorry, buddy, but
well, I'm at the stage now. I hate it as well.
It's good. But it's like you do it, and then you feel so you're not looking forward to it. You're not excited about it. You go through it, and then in the end, you're like, gosh, I feel like a rock star. Like I just ran 3 miles this morning, so it feels great once it's done. But the impact of seeing like, okay, hey, somebody was doing X or Y. I believe most people are generally very good and they want to do the right thing, and sometimes they just need a little bit of course correction to be able to do it. So as soon as you can have it, and a lot of times it's, hey, Justin, you're doing a great job with X or Y, or hey, I just need you to tweak this thing a little bit. So I think speed and not holding back on having those conversations. Like it's kind of easy to be like, oh, I'll talk to him tomorrow or the next day or the next time we meet for the month, whatever it is. So it's really important to course correct quickly. Our own kids it's the same way. If they keep doing something and I just let them keep doing it, like that's my fault because they're going to keep doing it. So I look at it the same way. And then of course, just taking care of team members and supporting them into what their goals are. So, the feedback is always like, hey, I want you to be better. Like, I want you to be the best person that you can be. I want you to be the best team member possible here. So those are the two big ones for me.
Yeah, you mentioned care and thoughtfulness, and then, caring about team members. Now, you've been in leadership a long time, and for our listeners that's listening to the show right now that aspire to be a leader, what is one thing that you definitely have to have if you're going to be a leader?
Ooh, that's
you mentioned care, thoughtfulness.
Being direct.
Yeah. Those are all important. I think a lot of people, if I were to answer, I think a lot of people get a little caught up. Like, I don't know that I can do X or Y. Like, I don't think that leaders are born. I think they're developed over time.
Good
I think
point.
at the end of the day, you really have to care. You have to care about something. You do have to care about people. You have to care about the company, and you have to care about more than yourself, right? It's your world changes when you're just an individual producer. Like, hey, my job, take underwriting for example, is just to be the best underwriter possible. When you become a leader, it becomes about everything but you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It becomes about the team. It becomes about the company and being a good steward of the company and taking care of the company and, you know, being great with people and then becoming the best leader that somebody can possibly be. So I think it's critical that you know that you want to make an impact, you want to make an influence on people, and you want to be curious and learn a new craft. What got you to hey, that's the great underwriter, has got great bones to be the next great leader, that willingness to be like, you know what, my mission now is to be the best leader possible. So somebody, I guess, who's open-minded and ready to take on the challenge that it is.
What about confidence, Melinda? You know, and this is something Mateen can relate to. You know, no matter how much you've accomplished previously, there's always going to be those times where you doubt yourself, right? What is the importance in your mind of really having that confidence, believing in yourself when you're in a position of leadership?
Confidence is super important. It's difficult if you work for a leader who doesn't have confidence, whether it's in their answers, whether it's in the way that they, they're coaching you. Confidence is critical, but it's also, honestly, it's equally important not to be overconfident. Like the fact that there are uncomfortable moments is like, it's usually because people care a lot. Like, hey, I want the outcome to be great. Therefore, I feel a little different about this one. So.
What about you? I mean, you've been in a position before as a leader where you've obviously accomplished great things on the basketball court. Did you have those times where you doubted yourself, or where doubt would start to creep in? And if so, how did you get yourself out of those ruts?
Well, I always have this saying: your will to win has to be greater than your fear of losing. And that was me. I always wanted to win. And yeah, I had doubt at times, but like confidence overcomes all of that. Was I the best shooter? No. Did I want to take the game-winning shot? Yes. And did I make the majority of them? Yes, I did. So I just think if you have that confidence and that drive and that belief in yourself, and it helps you go far in life.
Yeah, and I think as long as you have the belief that, hey, you're going to try as hard as you possibly can,
yep.
right? And like, hey, nobody can do it better. Like, nobody cares more than I do. Like, just that mentality each day. That's where I kind of can go home and be like, hey, it wasn't a perfect day by any means, but you know what? I worked darn hard that day, and I did the best that anybody could possibly do trying to tackle it. So, confidence is it's a big one, and I think it's one that we all experience, quite a bit. Sometimes it can hold us back. Sometimes it can hold us back from wanting to take on more, from wanting to be a leader. It's a big factor.
Confidence, not cockiness, ladies and
There's
gentlemen.
a difference.
We're talking about confidence.
Definitely true.
Working hard, you just brought that up, and the importance of that, especially early in your career as you're trying to establish yourself and kind of lay that foundation for not just the kind of employee or worker or team member you want to be in the present, but also in the future. How did that help you, especially early on, just really putting your nose to the grindstone and working as hard as you possibly could? Yeah,
I think it's the key to everything. I mean, if you work hard, like versus not, like I get so much more done in a day because I work hard versus somebody who didn't. I think it's a humongous factor. In fact, so my husband and I, we used to own a mortgage brokerage, and he would laugh at me. I would bring home, I would write, handwrite 1,000 envelopes to people, like to get leads. Like I would just sit at the kitchen table and be like, who the heck can actually have the focus to keep doing that? Like he thought I was nuts. He's a very different personality than I am. He's much more ADD. I'm much more focused. So it was a very good blend together, but it was like I don't care. Like I'm doing it to get some leads, and so we can grow this company and do great things. So it was always a focus from day one, knowing that gosh, I'm going to get a heck of a lot done today as long as my nose is to the grindstone and I'm making the most of my day.
And where does game planning kind of fall in goal setting? Because I know sometimes some people say, "Well, I'm working hard," but what are you working on? Does game planning kind of fall in there somewhat?
It does. Like you gotta know what you're working on, because it is easy to lose your focus on something. But it's like, hey, if my goal was to get out, I gotta get out 1,000 mailers today because I know that I'm going to get 10% of these are going to call as leads, and that's what I want to close next month. It's important to make sure that your focus is on the right thing. So you got to have it's easy to just let the day control you for sure. You walk in, especially in us with 4,000 people now. It's kind of fun on these podcasts to watch that number keep growing, but with to have the day taken away from you, and it really requires a lot of time management. Like, hey, am I focusing my time on the right things? Yes, I can come in and I can work, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is, but if it's not on the right things, then I don't have that impact for the day.
Yeah, how do you prioritize your day? And when you get here and you're kind of looking at the overview of what you have to tackle, how do you kind of set yourself up for success?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I get in early. I do start super early, and I consider that like my time to get stuff done. So whether it's my emails, my tasks, my own to-do list, and then really like after 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, it becomes my team members, the leaders who work with me, it becomes their day, and I'm at the mercy of everybody here until about 6 or 7 o'clock. Then I can focus back on kind of the Melinda to-do list. But it's important, I think, as a leader to just be available all the time to what might come up. There's definitely priority levels. There's things that are more risky on any given day. So things that need my attention a little bit more. And I might think like, okay, I'm going to tackle these 10 things today, but you know what? This issue happened and I had to spend 4 or 5 hours there. Like, okay, I'll move the rest of the stuff. I'll catch it up tonight. I'll come in extra early tomorrow morning, whatever it is. So it's usually the issues, the content of the issue prioritizes itself, and then the day goes from there. But
let me ask you this question here, Melinda. So, I would really want to know, like, what drives you? Because, like, some people are driven by success. Some people are driven by money. Me, I've created this crazy scenario in my head that someone thinks that I can't be successful in business. So that drives me every day to come in here and want to be successful in business. In basketball, I came up with something then.
Yeah.
So what is it that drives you? Because you're so motivated and you're so driven every day you come in here.
I think it's just a quest to make an impact, make an impact on people, make an impact on this company. And honestly, like I've always just been so passionate on the mortgage process in general. Like I just want to make a better process for people too. So I've always been, pretty motivated. I had a great dad who showed me how important it was to stay motivated and to work hard. So I think a lot of that comes from him. But it's a crazy world out there for sure. I really do love the impact part of it though, and that's what's great about this company is the ability to make a very quick impact on what it is, and that drives each day. Like, gosh, look, we changed this thing and this was better. Or, gosh, look, I worked with this person long enough, and gosh, they just got that promotion that they wanted. Their 5-year plan, they got it in year 3. Like that's the stuff that really is motivating. That keeps it coming back for more. I would say, gosh, if I was working hard and not seeing the results in it, it would be pretty depressing, and it probably wouldn't be that motivating. And it's really that thrill of watching, the results of yesterday. Like, gosh, we just made X and Y better, or help this person get their home, whatever it is. But that's what really drives is that it's like a addiction to impact.
You mentioned your dad, and I want to ask you about him and the role that he played growing up. As a mentor to you. What impact did he make on you in setting you up for your success down the road?
Yeah, no, 2 things. Just he used to get up at 3:30 in the morning and he'd get home about 7 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So watching him work so hard his whole life, and it was for us. It was for us kids to make sure that we went to a good school, to make sure that we had everything that we could possibly want to do. So that was amazing. He also taught me to always speak up. If there's something that isn't going right or that can be better, just say something. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, as long as anybody knows that it comes from a great place, like, hey, I may say this process could be better. It's not because, Mateen put it together and like, I don't like Mateen. It's like, hey, I think this process can just be better. It's coming from a great place. Like, hey, we could be better if we do X and Y. Let's roll with it. So he taught me his quote is, I've never regretted anything that I've said. I've only regretted things that I haven't said.
Wow.
Now, it's a little extreme because I'll be like, Dad, there's a lot you should regret that you said. You're like, okay, buddy. But it was really that push to always speak up. And hey, if you know something is right and you really feel it in your heart, like, keep bringing it up if there's a better way to do things. And I think a lot of people don't do that. And, those are honestly my favorite team members and favorite leaders, the ones that can think outside of themselves and be like, hey, this isn't going right. What do you think if we do this? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. Like they're showing that, that they care more than about themselves and they're thinking about the company on a whole. So that's 2 lessons from Dad. I'm sure there's a lot more in there, but I'm like, Dad, you kind of should regret some things that you've said in the past.
Well, hopefully he's not listening. No.
Yeah, but he was, and I think the other thing that I really took from him was back to the confidence thing that we were talking about. Like, from a very early age, he's like, hey, you can do anything that you want. Hey, you can, whatever it is that you want to be, I'll help you get there, and whatever it is, go after that, and we'll get there. So I'm lucky, super lucky to have had him in my life. I know that not everybody grows up kind of with that push of like, gosh, you're wonderful, like go do some great things. So it's a big testament to him, and a lot of where I think my drive comes from, and confidence level is like, hey, from an early age, you can do anything that you put your mind to.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry. Is that something on the note about being confident and telling you that you could do whatever you wanted? Is that something you now have passed along to your own kids?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I'm definitely big on that one with my kids, and I would say even in the workplace as well. But the kids are always a push. Like, hey, what is it that you want to try? How do we help you get there? Like, you can be anything. Like, let's start talking about, what do you want to be when you grow up? So yeah, definitely passed on to the kids. And then from a workplace standpoint, like, I think confidence level, maybe the way that somebody grew up, does hold them back sometimes. Like, there's a lot of conversations that I'll have with people. Maybe there's a great new leadership opportunity, and it's like, hey, Justin, like, you do such a great job. You're so great on the phones. You care about your people. You're the go-to on the whole team. Like, hey, have you thought about applying for X or Y? And a lot of times the answer I get is like, well, I don't know that I would be good at it. Like, what if I'm not ready? And it's a fun conversation to have. And I sometimes I wonder, like, hey, gosh, where did that come from? Like, why isn't the confidence level as high? And I'm really, it's something I take passionately, like in the workplace, is like, I know not everybody grew up with the same push that my dad gave me. And like, how do I help people? Like, I want to be that to people. I want to be like, hey, you're going to be great at whatever this role is. Let's go tackle it. And it's interesting. I mean, the amount of responses that you get back is pretty phenomenal. So a lot of people will say like, hey, I'm just not ready for X or Y, but you think I'd be good at it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like, look in the mirror. You're amazing. You're hitting every metric. You're so sweet. Like, you come up with a bunch of ideas. Like, you've got exactly what it takes. And it's like, usually like, okay, well, let me think about it for a day or two. And then you got 24 hours, like, go figure it out and let me know. And then they come back and they're like, oh, okay, like, I think I want to try it. And had you not had that one-on-one conversation, and had I not, I guess, put the trust in that person that they could do it, like, they might have never raised their hand for it. And then 6 months later, you touch back and it's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for pushing me to do this. It was like the best thing ever. And from my perspective, it's always like, just try it. Hey, if it's scary, if it's not what you thought it would be, like, I'm all about being happy at work. I honestly love what I do. I get excited to come in here every day, and I feel like every person deserves that. Like, we're here together for 8 hours straight or more. So this is like, you better be happy doing what you do. And hey, if you switch to a new role and you're not as happy as you were in the old role, great. Let's switch back, but don't hold yourself back because you're worried about, gosh, what if I'm not good at it? It's sometimes we all love that extra boost. So I do take it as a responsibility, both with my kids and in the workplace, to kind of be that advocate for people.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think we have a lot of leaders that they don't push, and sometimes as leaders we see things in other people that they don't see in themselves. Mm-hmm. And same with our kids, we see things in our kids that they don't even fathom or think that they can do it. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think it's very important when you're in a leadership role to push people. But for me, how do you? I got to ask you this question. How do you find that balance? Like, okay, am I pushing too hard? When do I push more? Is that something like, does that have something to do with who the person is, or, because I'm as a father, I'm still trying to find that balance. 'Cause I'll push myself, I'll push, and I'll keep pushing.
Yeah, no, I would say I'm probably a pusher. But sometimes people need to hear the message more than once, and it's okay. And sometimes pushing in different ways is really important. You think of our kids for a second too, and sports, like you can kind of choose one or two ways when that game is over. You can focus on like, hey, here's everything that you could have done this, you could have done that, or it's like, hey, honey, like let's go practice that shot when you get home, so next time you can do it differently. I like to joke around a lot. I like to use a lot of humor. So if I am pushing, I usually try and soften it, I guess, with humor. But I hate to see people miss opportunities because they're in their own way. And you put it perfectly. It's like, hey, I can see something in them that maybe they can't see, and maybe nobody around them in their life has ever gotten to see either their potential. So I love being that person.
Yeah. What is the feeling like when you have a person like that, and when you're able to give them that boost or that push, as you said, and then you see them blossom? I mean, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it changes their world. It changes their perception of themselves. It gives them the, oh my gosh, I really could do this. Like to think they're holding back on something, and the walk away with, oh my gosh, you were right. I actually could do X and Y. It's like, of course you can. You as long as you care and you've got the right work ethic to make it happen. I don't know. The world is your oyster, as they say, I guess.
Well, you kind of embrace that philosophy because you are so positive. Ever since I started here, whenever I see you, it's always a very warm, friendly hello. You always have a smile on your face, and we know that having a positive attitude is really important here. For you, what is the role that being positive plays in your day-to-day routine?
So we've all got those people that we've been next to, and I try and be I'm try to be very aware of my feelings. So I know, gosh, just 2 minutes with somebody who's kind of an energy drain person for me, God, what an impact that makes on my mood and my day. So for me, in here with 4,000 people, it's critical that I'm always, kind of projecting the positive, and it's not even, it's real and it's true. Again, I love what I do, so it's easy to be positive, but knowing what an impact even one kind of negative conversation or has on people after feeling it myself is not great. So I do whatever I can to keep it super positive and to always pump people up, just knowing that feeling of ooh, I don't like being around negative people. It's getting worse as I get older. Who wants to be around that?
I agree.
It's so much more fun the other way. And and those people, I try and definitely pull them up. Hey, let's talk about let's give the positive spin to whatever it is. And I do try and pivot a lot. Hey, if somebody comes with something, I'm but just think it's this happened that was great. And it's yeah, okay. Just always trying to lift people up. Again, just want them to be happy and don't want them to negativity festers too much. So anything we can do to squash it or to bring people up is my hope. So that's what I try and do each day.
And it's always good to see you because you do bring that positivity. You got a great smile on your face all the time. But I think about certain things when I look at you, and you are super successful, and to have success like that, yeah, you smile, you're positive, but I'm sure there was times where that pit bull had to come out sometime in those board meetings.
It's not often. I mean, I try and be, direct, as I said earlier, but also always fair and kind. The approach is everything, right? Even, in talking to my kids too, again, I can get frustrated with them, or they'll probably listen and respond much better if I just have a normal, conversation with them and hey, show them what it is that I need them to be doing differently. So, I have in my younger days, I had a couple of, kind of pit bull, sorry, and pitiful, but some of those pit bull conversations, and made some mistakes early on. And, I remember one in particular, I was in my 20s, and I, raised my voice at somebody and, kind of maybe said a couple bad words here or there, but, and reflecting on that now, to me, it's reprehensible. Oh my goodness! So even when you're a pit bull, always doing it with respect, knowing that you don't make that much impression when you're just crazy and off the wall.
Right.
So always trying to do it in a way that's always respectful for the other person, and just where they walk away with, yep, I get it, I understand what I need to do, and everybody walks away well. So it's age has done me well for that one. That was not my proudest moment, but fortunately it was many years ago. We'll call that my 20th year ago. A long time.
All right, that's fair. Well, speaking of, what is your proudest moment? Can you speak to one point in your career or one accomplishment that you will look at and say that is number one for me, or at least it's up there?
Oh, that's really hard. I feel like it's still happening every day. Like what we're doing here, honestly, is so amazing. Like I just get more and more and more proud each passing day.
I knew she was going to answer like that.
It's so true. I mean, I've had some great things happen in my life, and it's really like this, just building and building and building. And like when you look back and you think, gosh, you were only going to be able to accomplish X, and then oh my gosh, you well passed X, and now it's Y. Oh my gosh, and now it's Z, and now the alphabet's got to start all over again. But it's been amazing. I've watching the wholesale channel come back, like again 20 years, and a lot of that was as a mortgage broker, small business owner, and watching it come back again, like that's amazing to me. Like in my day, brokers were 50-60% of the business that was out there, and watching them fall to 5 or 6%, that was tough. That was tough to watch. So.
And I've been around you and Matt. I've been around Matt 20 years, over 20 years. I've been around you lately, and you guys are so competitive and driven. So do you guys have these little competitions between yourself where you're studying, competing with each other and driving each other and bringing the best out of each other?
Yeah, no, we like to have fun for sure. He likes to be right. Just kidding. I know he does. Hey, you were right about X and Y. Wait, what was that? Repeat that again. Like you were right about X and Y. So no, we have a lot of fun together for sure. Lots of the push and execution. So much comes from him. I'm much more, as I say, quietly competitive than he is. But each day is just a push. Like a lot of times it's like, hey, I'm through my emails. How about you? And I'm like, I've got 300. Like so, every it's much more fun when you're competing with somebody or yourself. It kind of you got something to live up to there. So yeah, lots of competition always. But it was always been pretty competitive with myself and with others, and it keeps it fun. It makes it fun that way. It's a challenge, right? It makes it a challenge instead of just something to do.
You talked about Matt, and we already talked about your dad and the role that he played for you growing up. Are there any other people out there that you would point to as a mentor, somebody who really has been there for you as a support system and has really helped you get to where you are?
Yeah, I would. My husband definitely comes to mind there. I would say kind of early days here. I guess the fear of like, oh gosh, like I'm sure at some point I had like, can I really take on that task? Can I really do that new role? And he was, as my dad had been growing up, like of course you can, like you'll be just fine. So he's an amazing push for me. He always has been early on, but he's also the one who reminds me when I go home after a tougher day and hey, maybe I didn't get through everything, and he's always the reminder of, hey, you know what, you worked hard, you gave it everything you had. Tomorrow's a new day, and it'll be better. So he's been great for those early days when I needed a push too to go try that next thing. Now I need that less. I'm like, I got this, like no problem. But he's been a gigantic influence in my life, and then obviously Matt as well has really pushed me and grown a lot as well. So.
It's interesting to hear that, just because it seems like every person we talk to, they have that support system in place, whether it's a family member or a spouse or even a colleague at work. You're not going to get there on your own, right? You can't do everything by yourself. You need to have those people around you that give you those positive vibes, or like you said, just simply a message of confidence. It's not going to happen on your own.
Yeah, it's everybody needs that support system for sure, and I certainly have the people inside that I can rely on. Like, hey, this is what happened. Like, help me out here. But it is really important always having that support system. Sometimes they can see things that you can't, and sometimes you just need that gentle reminder of like, hey, tomorrow's a different day, and always having people around you that have great confidence in you and trust in you, and truly internalizing what it is that they're saying because they care about you, and like, yep, okay, I will course correct, got my head right, let's go on.
Yes.
We mentioned, Melinda, the different teams that you oversee, and I want to ask you just about your level of involvement, because Matt Ishby, our CEO, has talked about how impressed he is by your attention to detail. It seems like you're on top of everything. How do you pay attention to all those details, be in the weeds, as we like to say, but also kind of have that broad overview and attend to everything that's on your plate?
So yeah, the team is great about, hey, Melinda, this is what's going on. Sometimes what happens a lot is like it's pieces of multiple teams that are affecting this, and that's where it gets super challenge. Is like, oh, well, that's happening because of X and Y, and then you got to go take care of X and Y. But I love being in the weeds. I love knowing as much as I can. Like in my perfect world, I'd understand 100% about everything, but I know that that's not possible. But I have an amazing team of people to rely on to help stay in the weeds. But there's I love meeting with the teams every week. I love getting into the finer details, because that's where you can, well, hang on, wait, I thought we did it like X and Y. So always digging in with the team, asking a lot of questions. I think I drive people super crazy with the amount of questions that I ask my leaders. They're always like, oh, get ready for the questions to begin. But that is how you stay in the weeds, and that's how you can understand like their ways of thinking and the judgment calls that they make. So you feel great about you've got this in spades, go handle it from now. But it's I like both. I love the tactical part, but I also love the bigger strategic part as well.
And you talked about that. And let me ask you this one quick question about, because you talked about your team, but the trust, how important it is, because you empower them, I think, somewhat. They feel empowered because you trust them. And it probably makes your life a little bit easier because you can trust the fact that they're going to do the right job.
Absolutely. That's the best feeling in the world, to know that, gosh, I don't have to worry about X or Y at all, because I know if there is anything that I need to worry about, it'll get escalated to me. But yeah, that trust thing is huge. Like that takes time, and it takes time getting into the weeds with people to say, hey, Justin, you look at it this way, I would have looked at it this way, or that's the great part, is having the wonderful leaders and watching them like learn so much, and to really like take the reins over for something. That's pretty incredible too. So yes, I love giving something away to somebody, because I know that they've got it, and I know that they feel good that they've got it too. But it's always with that, hey, I'm right here if you need anything at all. Just knock on my door, come on down, give me a ring, shoot me an email, whatever it is, and I'll help with whatever it is.
You've brought up your kids a couple times during our conversation, and I want to ask you about just balancing being a leader, being an executive, and also being a mom. When you think about what it takes to be successful at both of those jobs, what are the first things that you think about?
Ooh, it's I guess appreciating the time. I know that I work a good amount, so when I go home, like it's all about the kids from minute one. Love being with them. It's fun to watch the changes that even working here has made in me, that now I pass on to my kids. Like my favorite one is one of our pillars of be a thumb pointer, not a finger pointer. Like, oh my gosh, I love when my kids say it to my husband. Like, Dad, you're being a finger pointer, be a thumb pointer.
Wait, they actually say it to him?
They do. I love it. Those are my favorite moments in time where I'm like, ooh, look at that. That's all me. That's all United Shore there. But no, really, I've changed. I would say that I'm certainly a different mother for working here too. Like it's been amazing, but it is tough to balance. Thankfully, back to a great support system. Like, hey, as long as everything is going great at home and you're setting up home for success, like it enables me when I'm here. I can stay focused here. But got a fantastic husband who helps out a ton with the kids, and I think my hope is that they see their mom who works hard, and hopefully they have the same fantastic work ethic, and they know that any dream that they want to accomplish, they can make come true too. So it's fun balancing both. I couldn't imagine it any different. I like a crazy world. I like chaos. I like high stress. It's it's fun for me, I guess. It's a little bit twisted, but yeah, no, I'm got two great kids, so they make it easy on me also because they're good. They're fantastic.
And you had mentioned, I mean, pretty much for your kids, that you can accomplish anything. So if there's a young lady that's sitting out here listening to the podcast, sitting with their mom, what would that message be to them from you? Because you've accomplished so much, and young ladies can't turn on the TV and see women in leadership. They've probably been told that women can't lead as good as men. So what would be that message to that young lady that's sitting here listening to you that's aspiring to be a great leader one day?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It goes back to so much of what we talked about today. The main one is being like confident. Like, you know what, you can do it. Like, there are a lot of women in leadership, and they are fantastic.
Yeah.
It's there. You know, I don't know what it is that holds people back. Like, sometimes for women, it's like, hey, well, you know, what if I want to get married one day and I want to have kids one day? And I'm like, you know what, you'll deal with that then. Like, you'll figure out, like, hey, you know, being a working mom isn't for everybody. I get it, but like, don't worry about all of that stuff at all. Just, you know, back to the same thing, like, go in and try it. So just have the confidence in yourself. And it's we've got, you know, again, we've got a lot of fantastic male leaders here and a ton of fantastic women leaders here. Great company from that standpoint. Actually, I'm, you know, super proud of, you know, when I hear so much of the outside world about how few women are in leadership roles.
Right.
I'm like, gosh, that just doesn't happen in here at all. So I'm thankful to work for this company where there is no gender bias at all. But yeah, for all the young ladies out there, just, hey, you can accomplish anything. Like, women are fantastic in
That's
leadership.
right.
They're thoughtful. They really have everything it takes as much as a man does too.
Yeah.
Well said. You mentioned that you're quietly competitive. You also mentioned that you hate exercise, but I get the feeling that you make yourself do it. Right? Is that true?
Sometimes.
Well, no, where I'm going with this, Melinda, is I want to know what else you do, because obviously you got work, you got your kids, but what else do you do for you? Is there something that you do on a routine basis that helps you set yourself up for success, or at least to kind of get your mind right?
I like to eat.
Oh, all right.
That makes two of us.
I like to try fun food. No, I honestly, like, I love work, and I love being with my family, and I love both of those things. I'll admit, like, there is not much Melinda time, but I'm good with that because I'm doing, you know, two other things that I love, which is my family and my work. But no, I will never, ever have exercise as some, like, wonderful habit of mine. I wish I could say that I did, but no, I just love being with them. I love having, my kids are 11 and 15 now, so it's fun to do things that I would normally do on my own with them. So, hey, we go snow skiing, like, great, they're right along with me. So I love having things that I do that they can do also with me at the same time. So it's fun watching them grow up and do some of my things. But
You mentioned food, so
Yeah.
so what's the favorite?
Oh my goodness. I love all of it. I love trying all of it. Just like with anything else, I'm like, great, just try it. I've eaten some, God knows, like, crazy things before. I've had food poisoning, I think, 6 times.
Oh, no.
Maybe
wow.
7 in my life. And
So a
one
little
of
too
them,
adventurous, maybe.
Maybe a little bit too food aggressive for sure. One of them was my saddest. It was Taco Bell, and I do love Taco Bell. And that was, but I went back. Like, I took about 6 months off after that one and went back for more. But the other one's like, okay, probably could have done without that. But no, favorite food I think is actually crab legs, but snow crab, not king crab.
Okay.
'Cause I like the process of
like
getting
breaking
that crab
stuff.
meat. I do.
Oh, my. Well, we're going to have to go out to eat together because I like to eat them, but I don't like to break them.
I love it. I got a whole process for it. It comes right out. It's great. It's like, oh, I just worked for my food and I got a great meal on top of it. But, you know, the king ones have all those, like, spikes on it. They got to peel them. They got to open those for you.
Yeah.
But,
You gotta be careful.
yes, you do. You do.
I mean, that just plays well with digging in, right?
She says she like to work for it, man. She don't never take any time off.
If it comes easy, Melinda's not gonna like it.
Exactly.
Well, this has been really fun. It's been great getting to know more about you and what makes you tick and some of the things that have led you to where you are. So we appreciate having you as a guest, and we thank you for sharing your story.
Well, thank you for letting me share my story and for making it fun. I had a good time with you guys today, too. And to everybody out there, hey, just have the confidence in yourself and try new things, and everything will be just fine. It all works out in the end, that's for sure.
It has certainly worked out for Melinda. She is one of the best. To make sure you never miss an episode of Power Forward, subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And look for another new episode coming your way in 2 weeks featuring more inspirational stories of success. I'm Justin White. We'll see you next time on Power Forward.